You're watching All 24 News World News Program, and up next are tonight's top stories. U.S. Gaza ceasefire resolution passes at the UN. Palestine calls it a first step toward peace in Gaza. Algeria says its vote in favor was based on careful considerations. Also coming up, Algeria says its UN term was one of fulfillment. Foreign Minister Attaf says Western Sahara resolution upholds key principles and stresses that the relationship with France is bigger than any single issue. In Sudan, dozens of RSF forces killed in North Kordofan. Meanwhile, agencies warn of a record displacement from Al-Fashir and daily deaths from starvation and lack of medicine. Welcome back. First up in our news tonight, the UN Security Council adopted the US's submitted draft resolution on Gaza, with 13 members voting in favor and Russia and China abstaining. The resolution welcomes President Donald Trump's September 29 plan to end the war on Gaza Strip. It outlines a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire, guarantees full access for humanitarian aid, and sets a framework for rebuilding the Strip. Ammar bin Jama said the Gaza Strip would be managed by a Palestinian technocratic committee under transitional arrangements. Speaking before the Security Council in New York, Algeria's permanent representative explained that this committee would serve as an interim body ahead of the Strip's full administration by the Palestinian Authority, in line with the broader plan.
Gaza will be administered under a transitional arrangement by a technocratic Palestinian committee, pending the return of the Palestinian Authority to assume its full responsibilities in the Strip, as outlined in the comprehensive plan.
Ambassador Ammar bin Jama added that Algeria negotiated the resolution on behalf of the Arab group in consultation with the Palestinian representatives. He noted that the final text had the support of both Arab and Islamic groups.
It is worthy to recall that this text has received the support of broadly Arab and Muslim countries, whom in full responsibility have publicly endorsed the draft in its final version and called for its adoption.
The Palestinian Foreign Ministry said the UN Security Council's endorsement of President Donald Trump's plan to end the war on Gaza is an essential first step toward peace. During her visit to the Philippines, Foreign Minister Varsine Agabekian stressed that no progress is possible without a ceasefire, and that the plan must be implemented in line with the international law. She added that the core issues remain, including the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and the goal of full independence.
The UN resolution is a first step in a long road towards peace. That step was needed because we could not embark on anything else before we had a ceasefire. So the ceasefire is important, and it has been important for saving Palestinian lives.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said Algeria voted in favor of the UN resolution put forward by the United States to adopt what is being called the Gaza Peace Plan, citing several objective considerations. Speaking at a press conference Tuesday in Algiers, Attaf noted that these considerations relate to the resolution's core goals, the motives behind it, and the positions of key regional actors.
وقد صوتت الجزائر لصالح هذا القرار.
Algeria voted in favor of this resolution based on several objective considerations. First, substantive purposes of this resolution. Second, the background lying behind it. And third and finally, the position of the main regional players involved towards it.
Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said Algeria secured a key amendment to the draft Gaza peace plan during Security Council negotiations aimed at supporting the Palestinian people's path toward an independent sovereign state.
تمكنت الجزائر خلال المفاوضات
Algeria managed during the negotiations to introduce a highly important amendment to this resolution, an amendment that clarifies that the ultimate purpose of this resolution is to create favorable conditions to pave the way for political solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and to enable the Palestinian people to establish their independent and sovereign state.
The Algerian press agency said the constitution makes foreign policy the sole responsibility of the president, who acts on behalf of the nation. The Algerian press agency added that Algeria is fully sovereign, with decisions guided solely by national interests and the common good, and cannot be swayed by individual whims or pressures.
The national state has regained all its powers and has become the master of all its decisions, guided only by national interest and the public benefit. A strong national state cannot be subjected to the whims, impulses, or desires of anyone. The tragedies of the 1990s have passed without return after the proud Algerian people paid a heavy price for conspiracies that vainly sought to deal a blow to the national state in its within. The foreign policy of the Algerian state is defined by the constitution of the nation, which makes foreign policy a field reserved for the President of the Republic as the sole maker of external political decisions on behalf of the Algerian people, and who determines the state's diplomatic apparatus as the entity responsible for implementing this policy in all its details. No voice rises above the voice of the Constitution, and there is no source for our foreign policy other than its constitutional source.
Now for an update on the ground from Gaza Strip. Occupation warplanes carried out strikes beyond the yellow line east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, alongside bursts of gunfire in the area. Local sources said that on the 39th day of the ceasefire, occupation aircraft launched several raids beyond the yellow line east of Khan Yunis, while armored vehicles opened heavy fire. They added that buildings beyond the yellow line east of Gaza City were also demolished. At least 10 Palestinians have been wounded after an occupation drone struck central Gaza City on Tuesday morning. Local sources say the attack hit near a school and a shelter in an area that had been designated as a safe zone. Among the injured is a child who is now in grave condition. Turning to other news, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said Algeria remained committed to its obligations during its Security Council tenure, following a consistent approach. At a press conference Tuesday in Algiers, he added that Algeria will maintain this stance as it prepares to hand over its seat to new Arab and African members next year, noting recent significant developments on priority diplomatic issues.
We are meeting today as Algeria's mandate in the UN Security Council is drawing to its end. This is the final turning point in this mandate, that we have made sure and continue to make sure it's a mandate of loyalty, as instructed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. Loyalty to Algeria's identity and its militant history, and loyalty to Algeria's Arab, Islamic, and African belonging, and the ideals enshrined in the UN Charter.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said a propaganda campaign surrounded the Security Council's adoption of Resolution 2797, which renewed the UN mission in Western Sahara, MINURSO. He noted that claims of a closed file are often repeated in international forums, but stressed that the resolution preserves all core principles for resolving the Western Sahara issue without changing any of its linked components.
فيما يخص ملف الصحراء الغربية.
Regarding the Western Sahara issue, it also witnessed a notable development at the end of last month. This development was reflected in the adoption by the Security Council of Resolution 2797. This event was accompanied by a propaganda campaign, which I firmly believe is by no means unfamiliar to Western Sahara file. Those who have followed the evolution of this issue from its beginning know fully well that the narrative of a closed file or a settled file is neither new nor recent. It is rhetoric repeated each time. This question is raised again before various UN platforms, especially the Security Council. Moreover, the resolution adopted by the Security Council preserved, in its substance, all the fundamental principles for resolving the Western Sahara issue without affecting any of its interconnected and integrated components.
Attaf emphasized that Algeria is ready to support any mediation between the parties in Western Sahara as long as it operates within the UN framework. He stressed that Algeria's commitment reflects its ongoing concern for the security and stability of its neighbors.
بناء على هذه المعطيات ومن منطلق المسؤوليات الملقاة على عاتقها.
Based on this data, and from the standpoint of the responsibilities it bears as a neighboring country to both parties at issue, Algeria will not hesitate to provide its support for any mediation initiative between the two sides, provided that such an initiative falls within the United Nations framework and that both of its form and substance adhere to the established principles of a just, lasting, and definitive solution to Western Sahara issue, as it is set out in all relevant Security Council resolutions, including the most recent one.
And on the situation in Mali, the Algerian foreign minister expressed concern of a growing terrorist threats. He said Algeria's concern stems from its historical commitment to stand with Mali.
إن ما تشهده اليوم دولة مالي من تعاظم الأخطار الإرهابية.
The growing terrorist threats that the state of Mali is witnessing today, and which have reached unprecedented levels and boundaries, are a source of concern and worry for us more than others, and it pains us more deeply than it pains anyone else. The source of this concern lies not only in the fact that the state of Mali is our immediate neighbor, but also in Algeria's historic commitment to standing by this brotherly country throughout all the ordeals and crises it has gone through since its independence. Algeria has always been and continues to be among the staunchest defenders, advocates, and supporters of preserving the unity of the state of Mali, its land, its people, and its institutions. Algeria has always been and continues to be among the strongest defenders and advocates of safeguarding Mali's territorial integrity.
Similarly, the Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister said the rising terrorist threat in Mali confirms warnings Algeria issued nearly 2 years ago and expressed hope that Mali's leaders will recognize the need to return to the political path.
إن تعاظم الخطر الإرهابي اليوم.
The growing terrorist threat in Mali today and the unpredictable challenges and risks it imposes on the region unfortunately confirm what Algeria predicted and warned against nearly 2 years ago, when the Malian authorities unilaterally withdrew from the peace and reconciliation agreement stemming from the Algiers process. But today, as we witness with our own eyes the realization of what Algeria predicted about 2 years ago, we can only hope that those in charge in that country wake up and realize the imperative of returning to the political process to make up for the efforts they missed in order to avoid looming disasters, not only in Mali, but across the entire region. For its part, our country continues to extend its hand to its brothers in the state of Mali.
The Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said the relationship between Algeria and France is too important to be tied to any one individual. Speaking at a press conference in Algiers, he added that certain circles in France have turned this person into a symbol of hatred and a tool to settle scores. But such actions cannot affect ties between the two countries.
السيد الذي ذكرتم اسمه فلم يكن لهذا العمل أي تأثير.
The gentleman you mentioned and his name had no impact whatsoever on this matter. Do not give this person more importance than he deserves. Algerian-French relations are far greater than him, and they cannot be influenced by actions like those orchestrated around this issue by known circles in France, who made of this individual the bearer of their hatred and the tool to settle their scores with Algeria.
Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune met with David Tizano, President of the International Committee of the Mediterranean Games, and his delegation. The meeting in Algiers was attended by Boualem Boualem, Chief of the Presidential Cabinet, Abdelrahman Hamad, President of the Algerian Olympic Committee, and Mustafa Biraf, the IOC member. Algeria has reaffirmed its determination to become a leader in skills and professions. Speaking at the opening of the first National Olympiad of Professions Monday at the Milud Hadfi Olympic Complex in Iran, Prime Minister Saifi Ghorayeb said the event signals Algeria's aim for a major leap in vocational training at both African and international levels.
This event is not merely a national competition, but a message reaffirming Algeria's strong determination to join the ranks of leading nations in the field of skills and professions. It is an explicit declaration of its intention to achieve a qualitative leap in this sector at both the African and international levels, in line with the commitment of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to realize a comprehensive economic transformation driven by Algerian hands and national expertise.
The Algerian government highlighted its confidence in the potential of its youth. At the opening of the first National Vocational Olympics Monday in Iran, Prime Minister Saifi Ghorayeb said the goal is for every vocational graduate to become an entrepreneur or innovator, reflecting Algeria's ambitious outlook for the future.
Algeria's accession to the regional initiative World Skills Africa falls within the framework of implementing a comprehensive strategic vision set by the President of the Republic for the development of the vocational training and education sector, and for making it a true driver of economic and social development. Indeed, the modernization of vocational training mechanisms and institutions has become a core priority of government action in recent years, stemming from a firm conviction that the standards of success in today's world are no longer limited to theoretical knowledge, but also rely on practical competence, the ability to create and innovate, and keeping pace with technological acceleration.
Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh arrived in Algeria Tuesday for an official visit from November 18 to 20, 2025. He was welcomed by Algerian Prime Minister Saifi Ghorayeb and government officials at Houari Boumediene International Airport. The Algerian Prime Minister's office said the visit aims to strengthen bilateral ties and expand cooperation across areas of mutual interest. Moving on to the war in Sudan, the Sudanese army said it killed dozens of Rapid Support Forces fighters, including key commanders in North Kordofan clashes. The Sudanese Shield Forces, part of the army, said in a statement that an operation targeted RSF positions in Sayala. They added that this is the first phase of a broader plan to secure the North Kordofan region. The humanitarian organization Mashad reported that 7 to 11 people died daily in Sudan due to food and medicine shortages, blocked aid, and forced displacement by the Rapid Support Forces. In a Tuesday statement, Mashad president said 3.7 million children under 5 face acute malnutrition. He added that 1.2 million pregnant or nursing women lack essential food and health care, while 11 million women and girls face severe health and social risks. The UN said the Darfur crisis in West Sudan is hitting children hardest, with 1 in every 5 of those killed in Al-Fashar being a child. UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Tom Fletcher, speaking via video from the Adri border crossing, described Darfur as a truly horrific scene. He recounted meeting children carrying younger siblings to safety and strangers rescuing infants after their parents were killed. On a related news story, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf said disputes among external actors are blocking a solution to Sudan's conflict. Speaking at a press conference in Algiers, he noted that the UN Security Council talks have made little progress due to foreign interference, highlighting the complexity and difficulty of the Sudanese crisis.
In reality, the role of external actors has now become a true barrier, preventing any political engagement with the Sudanese crisis. From our position on the Council, we can clearly see how complex, extremely complex, the situation is. It is impossible for any party seeking to revive a political process for Sudan to succeed, because the tensions, conflicts, and divisions among the external actors involved in Sudan prevent that from happening.
Moving on to the war in Ukraine now. Local officials in Ukraine's Donetsk region said an unprecedented overnight Ukrainian attack on Russian-controlled areas damaged 2 thermal power plants, cutting electricity to several towns. Reuters reported that the attack, carried out by Ukrainian drones, halted boilers and water purification systems, leaving around 500,000 people without power. Emergency crews are working to restore electricity. Reuters reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin's special envoy Kirill Dmitriev will not attend Wednesday's meetings in Istanbul with U.S., Turkish, and Ukrainian officials. The agency said Dmitriev held productive talks with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff from October 24 to 27 in the United States. The news agency also cited a Turkish source saying Witkoff will visit Turkey Wednesday to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who plans to travel there after visiting Spain. Ukraine aims to revive negotiations and present solutions on the war with Russia. On the other part, the Kremlin said Moscow has not received any word from Kyiv about resuming talks and will not send representatives to Wednesday's Istanbul meeting. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Zelensky seemed to refer to contacts with Turkey, where U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff may join. He added that Russia cannot gauge Kyiv's readiness as it is unaware of the proposals Ukraine has prepared for negotiations.
There will be no Russian representative in Turkey tomorrow. For now, these contacts are taking place without Russian participation. We will await information on what would actually be discussed in Istanbul. We have not yet received any information from Kiev. Russia continues to remain open for the negotiation process. Our position is well known. It is well known in Washington. It is well known in Istanbul, and it is well known in Kiev.
Moving on to another global news story. U.S. President Donald Trump said he does not rule out sending U.S. ground troops to Venezuela, but it is open to hearing directly from President Nicolas Maduro on ways to avoid further military escalation. Asked at the White House about speaking with Maduro, Trump said it is possible, stressing that he speaks to everyone. That's the end of our news program for tonight. To catch up on any part you missed or get the latest updates, you can always visit our social media platforms. On behalf of all 24 News team, I'm Islam Sid, signing off. Thank you for watching. Do take care.